In England, when you go to a party, you don't talk about death. And if you do, you're not invited to the party anymore. But in Ireland, they don't mind talking about everything under the sun.
I remember looking at my father and thinking, well, you've never seen a dead man. And I've seen scores and scores and scores of dead men. You've never seen a man shot. You've never seen a man die.
I want to live as long as I can. But when my day comes, I feel my day's finished. And I've no fear of it.
But you never forget them. Doesn't matter how long they've been dead, you never forget them. They're still with you. Still with you. If they're not with you in person, they're with you in spirit. Right? Mother was getting fat, and we didn't know. We never knew a word, and didn't know a thing. We was as innocent as you. And we went to bed one night, and we could hear this tramping up and down the stairs. And I said to my sister, Mammy must be bad. I'm going to get out of bed. And my sister said, get back out, Rose. Be all right. I said, I'm going to get out of bed. I got out of bed and my dad was on the landing. I said, Dad, what's the matter? Is Mum bad? He said, your mum's bad, but she'll be better in the morning, my lass. Go and get back to bed. I got up the next morning, went in the bedroom. I said, have you been bad, Mum? She said, yes, lass. I said, what's been the matter with you? She says, well, on my washstand, there were washstands in those days. She says, you'll see a pillar and you'll see a baby on there. A baby? Where's that come from? Now, she says, ask no questions and you'll get no lies. Just lift the handkerchief up and have a look at it. I lifted the handkerchief up and it was like a little doll. It wasn't full, but it was dead. And it had this handkerchief up. Now she said, I've got to go to school today, Rose. Oh, I said, why, Mum? She says, your daddy's left a letter and you've got to do a bit of business for your daddy. Mum put this little baby in this box. It was very small, just a doll. So I said, oh, don't put the lid on. We're going to put some wadding over its face. We put some wadding over its face. Now she said, put the lid on it. She said, now you've got to go to the cemetery. Off we went to the cemetery. The baby under our arms, and the letter. You've got to give it the first grave digger you see. Right. Say, mister, my daddy sent you this. He read the letter. Oh, yes, my lass. He said, it's quite all right. He said, you see the church over there, the corner? We said, yes. He said, well, in that corner, he said, you'll find a lot of parcels. Bessie and I went. We were surprised to see all these boxes and parcels and bundles. inquisitive Rose went back to the gravedigger, said to the gravedigger, "Mister, what do you do with all those parcels up there?" He said, "Well, you see, my lass, people haven't got the money to buy graves these days. So he said, when my graves get full up, he said, we put one at the top and one at the bottom." "Oh," I said, "that's what you do with them, is it?" He says, "Yes, you're all right, my lass." He says, "There, get the put in." We get rid of them. Off we came back, told Mum and Dad. That was the end of it.
The most of my life, I've worked as a funeral director in the firm known as Houston and Williamson in Belfast. My mother's role was charge of the office. She looked after the office completely. Everybody got along well with my mother. I never known anyone that didn't get on with her. We were all close to her. We thought there was no one like my mother, and my father thought nobody could look after the business, only my mother. He wanted nobody else there. She must be there no matter who comes in or who went out. My father was, I would say, he was a man very highly respected. As a matter of fact, we would never have questioned what he wanted done. No more would the men working for him. If you weren't busy, you had to exercise the horse. Give him a bit to do, see. Otherwise, whenever you take him out, you could hardly control him, see. Archie, the brother, used to take out the pony or something down to the blacksmith for to get shod or that sort of thing. I remember the first time, when I felt the body cold, it put a shiver through me, you see. But like anything else, you got sort of a season to it, and maybe that's the right word, that you got used with it.
Children, Irish children, are not going to be frightened of corpses. Some children would be frightened, I suppose, but I wasn't frightened. I was interested. And I was brought by the hand, and we went into the house where the wake was, and we got up the stairs.
For the grace and all, see, blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy
And I went over to the bed, and I stood up on my toes to have a look at the figure of the gentleman asleep. But so the poor man was dead, eyes closed, and his hands joined, and he had a rosary beads or something of that kind, and a cross. The cross was there on his chest. I had a sister that was 3 or 4 years older than me. She had more sense than I had. And I asked her later, very much later, I said, why did Mother bring me to a wake, a young child? She said, you were troublesome, and you wouldn't do what Sarah, that was the domestic, you wouldn't do what Sarah wanted you to do. And Mother had to take you out of the way, and that's why you were brought to the wake. I can't pretend to have had any very spiritual aspirations at all. Perfectly natural. And when it was put up to me, you'll be working for God. That's what you're going to do. That'll be your work henceforth. That was all new, experimental. I said, well, it'll be interesting. We'll see what it's like. And we took it. You have patients who are terribly frightened of death when you go to see them, first of all, in their sickness. But as a death approaches itself, they're perfectly serene, perfectly calm and quiet, and take it. Not the least perturbed. That's my experience. Even so, even some lads who were not exactly gospel greedy, who weren't saying their prayers night, noon and morning, they enjoyed themselves in this way and that way. Even then, when it comes to death, they are amazingly resigned.
Generally, there was a woman in the district, and whenever the death took place, or maybe before it took place, they were in touch with her, because she was what I would have called a handy woman.
Neither a mother or a husband or a wife wouldn't lay anybody out. If she lost her own baby, she couldn't do it. If she lost her husband, you couldn't do it. You couldn't. You would be too grieved to do it. No. You're glad of any neighbour coming in and doing that little good deed for the day. You wash the body. Oh, yes, you sponge them all down. Oh, yes, sponge them right down. And man, you sponge him right down, put his pyjamas on, and put his jacket on, and button him on, put his arms straight, and that. Oh, yes. And same with the woman, same with the baby. And that's their last wash.
And if it was a man, he'd be shaved. His hair combed, etc., etc., and he'd be laid out beautifully.
If her mouth opened and you couldn't shut it, you've got a handkerchief and you tied it up at the top till it's set, and then you would take it down after. If its eyes wouldn't close, you'd put a bit of tape on your cheek and put a penny on it till it closed. You'd take that off. It was no trouble. You just done your duty. You took the bedding away, took all off the bedding, put a clean sheet on, laid there or him out on the sheet, and covered him up, ready for the undertaker. You would come down, you would tell the lady, or whoever it was, that would she like to go up to see it? You'd take her up to see, and you'd bring her down. You'd have a cup of tea, and she would thank you. That would be your good deed for the day.
Whenever a person dies, rigor mortis sets in. In some cases, it could last to 24 hours or longer. In some cases, it passes off nearly immediately. Now, some people were very fetish because it passed off so quickly they never noticed it. And they said that rigor mortis had never set in. Therefore, they said that was a sign there's going to be another death. Johnny brought the coffin the night before, except in some cases where the body was swelling a bit. It was just gases forming in the stomach. And these gases caused either the face to bulge or the body to bulge. The generally person that was a person who was well nourished. If a person was what you or I would say skin and bone. Generally, there's no trouble with them. But a person who was well nourished, very often they deteriorated much, much quicker.
The undertaker would be there, yes. He's the head one. The undertaker would come and organise the nearest relation, the nearest one, and the next one, the cousins and the nephews and nieces and that. It's very grieving time, is a funeral. A very upsetting time. And a person is better to be left on her own than too many people round you. Better for her to have a grieve and to cry it out herself and be on her own. Cry it out on her own, grieve on her own, but to have too many people, it upsets her.
Archie, the brother, he was the oldest of the family. But he's about 2 years and 4 months older than I was. We were very intimate, the two of us. As a matter of fact, no matter where we went, the both of us were together. We were like pals. He volunteered, and he joined the army, and then they sent him to France. The next word we got, that he was at St. Quentin, and he was missing.
The war broke out when I was 17, and I don't think I'd even learned to play tennis or golf or anything like that, or take part in any social life. I don't remember, for instance, having the opportunity or the wish to go courting, for instance. After a show, we always had to leave a certain number of wounded out in no man's land. Couldn't get them back, and you could hear them at night, during the following night, crying from pain, and we obviously didn't like that. It affected us very much, and we did try to go out at night and bring them back again. Although many of them, of course, you couldn't do anything with them. They were so badly wounded. They just died. They just died very often talking about their mother and their boyhood and so on, things like that. I did hear of cases, several cases, where they had actually been shot. And they'd been shot by a fellow officer. But I never did it myself. I never really probably had the occasion to do it. Or I probably didn't want to do it. Or couldn't do it. I don't know. They still lay there for 4.5 months because we had not moved our front line from that date, July the 1st, until November the 13th, when we attacked, and the bodies had rotted there for 4.5 months. And I then had the task with my burial parties of at least giving them some sort of a burial. We shoveled the bodies of the old dead into shell holes, which very often were filled with water, and probably put about 25 to 30 bodies in each shell hole. There was nothing you could do to identify them. We did try with pieces of wood, but I doubt whether they survived more than an hour or two. Strangely enough, when bodies have lain out for some time, it doesn't become so repulsive. It's a sweet smell. And I found that in almost every case, the rats had a nest in the cage of the chest, and they ran out as we moved them. They were well fed, the rats on the Somme. Big fat rats, almost as big as cats. It was not a job that I would recommend, especially for a young officer aged 19.
My mother, she always felt that I was sure to turn up somewhere. Should he turn up maybe in Germany, turn up somewhere, but that went on for years. As a matter of fact, she even went to France, to the war graves, on one of the tours, and had a look at the stones there in case there's any chance that his name would be on the stone. There's no record of him.
I felt very old in experience. In fact, the years of the war seemed to last longer than all the rest of my life put together. And I remember looking at my father and thinking, well, you know, you've never seen a dead man. And I've seen scores and scores and scores of dead men. You've never seen a man shot. You've never seen a man die. Or if you have, it would be in, well, I say, pleasant family circles, with no pain attached to it, maybe. So I really felt much older than my parents, much older. And I think that feeling continued for the rest of my life.
The mourners here, they flock in to say, give their condolences to the people who are bereaved. And they have to, not all accommodated naturally enough in one room. They have to separate, and some of them would be in the kitchen, some would be in the drawing room. There were drawing rooms those days, it's called a lounge now, drawing room. Some of them would be in the room with the corpse, the bedroom. The tradition, and I think it perseveres to the present day to some extent. One night in the home for the corpse, and one night in the church is the present regime. And during the night at home for the corpse, somebody sits with the corpse the whole night through. The corpse is never left alone. The corpse is alone, but there's always a companion that's sitting on a chair. And normally they'll be saying a few prayers. And if there's 4 or 5 together there, they don't take it too seriously. They tell funny stories.
I've heard of crude things when played at Wexford. Maybe it wouldn't do to say them. I heard tell, I don't remember, I heard tell of this, some of the boys, you know, will be up to their tricks. They slipped in the tide strings to the man's hand, or a woman's, whatever it was. And whenever they were at the height of their awakening and were able to enjoy themselves, these boys slipped up, did the cords out to the window, and they pulled the cords. And of course the bodies sat up in the coffin, and the people fled, and they swore for anyone that he sat up in the coffin.
They entertain one another, keep themselves awake, and they drink cups of tea.
I thought the Roman Catholic priests did a wise thing. They turned round and they advised the people to bring it into the chapel the night before and have the service in the next morning from the chapel. Well, that cut out a lot of the booze, as I would call it, or drinking. My experience was that the Protestant could drink, but the Roman Catholic could show them how to drink, if you understand what I mean.
The outlook on death is different. In England, when you go to a party, you don't talk about death. And if you do, you're not invited to the party anymore. But in Ireland, they don't mind talking about everything under the sun. More loquacious, perhaps, I don't know. But the outlook seems to be different completely. And children here, they follow when the hearse is going along on the road towards the cemetery. Children all gathered in, they follow the hearse. Entertainment, I suppose, of a type. Children are interested in the funerals. And they seem to love the funerals. Even they go to the graveside, see the grave being filled in, looking into the hole where the coffin has been put down.
Well, a widow should always wear a black coat or a black dress. You'd always see it in black for a long while. Black dress, and black jacket, black shoes, and black stockings, and a black hat. That was their respect, wearing black. All black. All black. Now then, when you went to the funeral and you came back, you would come in the house, wouldn't you? You would sit down, take your gloves off. Everybody had black gloves. And they would have the cup of tea and the sandwich and the cakes. Or if there was any lettuce or anything, you'd make a proper tea. There used to be a shop top of Dalton Road, Cannons, and they used to sell little wee gammons hams, little and small ones, about 5 shillings. Well, you'd buy one of them and you'd boil it yourself. You'd boil it before the funeral, and it would be nice and cool. And then the neighbours or the waiter, the women that was making you the tea, would cut that up and make the sandwiches. Now today, they have a big posh tea and a big do, and they don't wear black. They can please themselves what colour they go in. Then none of them goes in very light colours. They all go in a bit of dark stuff.
Years. we were actually working together.
About 40 years.
But I was
But you were still...
being brought up in the family. I was working probably in some capacity from I was early teens. I remember very well the first time going out to assist my father with dressing a body and shaving. I can still remember that very well, actually. I think it would be true to say that I wasn't just a natural to the business. I had to steel myself to do it.
That was common to both of us. We worked very harmoniously. You know, sometimes we disagreed a wee bit. But on the whole, we always came to agree. As he would say, you know, sometimes he was right and I was wrong, and sometimes I was right and he was wrong. But we, you know, we learned what you say, you know, do what most people should do in the world, in Northern Ireland especially. They should learn to agree to disagree. I tried to be the boss. Like he mightn't have thought I was the boss, you know.
At the persuasion of my son, I revisited the battlefields when I was 90 years of age, the first time I had been back. And I went over the same ground where I'd buried the 900 Newfoundland dead. The larks were singing. Everything was so calm, so peaceful, that I felt that everybody who died there was well and truly resting. And that was the general impression, one of absolute peace. And they would be there and there forever.
I will be buried, I expect, in a Knockbreda cemetery, because the wife is buried there. And I expect to go into the same grave as she is in. I want to live as long as I can, but when my day comes, I feel my day's finished. And I've no fear of it. But I'm not, what to say, looking forward and saying, well, I want to get away. No, I'm still a wee clinging to this world. And I think everybody has, although some people might say otherwise.
I expect to go any time. Oh yeah, but it doesn't worry me. I've had a remarkable life. I'm not saying I'm looking forward to it, by any means. I'm enjoying life very much. I still drive a little tractor and cut all the grass in the garden here, and I've got nearly 4 acres of it. And I have great fun with a jobbing gardener who comes, and he, of course, is a young man. He's a young man of 75. And I pulled his leg about that. I told him the other day he was young enough to be my grandson. And so I still enjoy life, very much indeed.
I'm quite willing of this cremation. I think it's the best thing that ever came out. Then bury them, man, because when you go and you bury them in a grave, and you look down that grave, and you see all that water, it runs down the graveside, and you see all the wall, all the sand and that, and you think that's got to go on the top of him. It worries you. But cremation is better. No trouble at all. You just put there and the curtains drawn, no trouble. I think it's the best idea. And it's the cleanest way.
When all is said and done, doesn't matter. What does matter is to go above for the examination. That's the one exam we all have to pass.
Let's just face it, if you were down there 20, 30 years, you're just going to be a skeleton. Flesh is dropped off you. Right?
We know very little about the afterlife. Nobody has returned to tell us anything about it as a fact. It's left to the imagination. We can't describe it in the vernacular. Different language, different atmosphere, different experience altogether. Down with a different world completely. So the things that we say about the lovely music and the playing harps and lovely flowers and colours, the street paved with lovely pearl stones, this, that and the other, that's all tosh. That's also trying to cook up your imagination to think of happiness that is absolutely sublime and the fulfillment of all your desires and all your wishes. That's what heaven is. But how that comes about, we have to take that on faith.
But you never forget them. Doesn't matter how long they've been dead, you never forget them. They're still with you. They're still with you.